Hey guys, this is Jamie. So today I want to talk about mental health and specifically certain issues which affect it. I know this shouldn't be a controversial topic again, in my eyes. Maybe because I'm European, maybe because um, I'm very left leaning. Like the years go past and I just become more sort of interested in communism and like different ideologies, and I feel like such concepts that I kind of take for granted, like free healthcare, um, not facing really what a lot of Americans face in Europe, uh, just feels absolutely batshit insane. Like, there's a lot of issues which we're gonna unpack, but it really feels like the more I look at what's going on in America specifically, from we're gonna talk about different sort of money points, affordability, and everything else. And this has been a topic which has been on my mind actually. And today it got fueled even more by I really enjoy Tiffany Ferg's videos. I watch them nearly religiously at this point. And I'll link the video down below. And it was just, it shed light sort of on the university housing situation in the US. And I knew that it was bad because a lot of things in the US are, specifically when it comes to sort of affordability, but I didn't know how bad it was. So, yeah, let's dive in. So, what I wanted to say is that I don't understand why people feel like certain human rights should be earned, and in general, that concept is just completely. Um, I don't know why people feel like some people don't deserve certain rights and etc. Um, I guess in my sort of life, it sort of goes back to being gay, being trans, and the fact that I am from a Russian speaking family. I encountered a lot of difficulties growing up, sort of, um, because people were quite against Russian speakers when I was growing up. Well, and now, of course, there's the war, so it's even worse. And it's really difficult to be someone with Ukrainian ancestors who speak Russian. And my ancestors spoke Russian. Like, my family speaks Russian. So obviously, seeing people's, like, I remember I went around when the war started and refugees were going to Portugal. I remember I went to an event hosted by some Ukrainians in the city, and this Ukrainian lady was like, "Why aren't you speaking Ukrainian? Like, we need to speak Ukrainian to sort of stand up to us." And I'm like, "Lady, I'm in a Russian family. Like, no one in the generations of my families ever spoke Ukrainian. We just speak Russian with a different accent. We borrow sort of Ukrainian sounds. It's a dialect which is primarily used in that region, which has where my parents are from, which does include certain Ukrainian words, does include certain sounds which are used in Ukrainian. So it's really weird to hear someone say you need to support a certain part of history, but not the other one. So I kind of like grew up without a lot of sort of understandings, or rather pressure from the fact that I should be something else in order to receive human rights. Like, I always kind of struggled with different situations. I've had people take me off the bus because I spoke Russian, stuff like that. So I always kind of was aware of really weird inequality, and obviously then growing up and realizing further that I'm gay and trans and it even exists really was a big sort of nuance to even understanding further how unequal our society is, and how certain people just don't want to give us rights. And specifically right now, when we're talking about trans men rights, trans women rights, non-binary rights, and obviously there's the whole situation with the chess association. There's people who are claiming that trans women aren't women, trans men aren't men, and it's really weird. So in general, kind of as someone who is very aware of being different, this just sort of makes me more confused. And then, like, well, factually to the topic, then we look at America and it's like you need to sort of like be able to pay an obnoxious amount of money for tuition, then you need to get student housing, then you need to pay for the meal plan from what I understood. And these things are really, really expensive. And like, while I do understand that there's a lot of US households, I assume, which can afford it, obviously European households as well, but that doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of people who cannot afford this. And I don't feel like education should be a right that should only be preserved for people who can afford it. And my own educational path was very difficult because of my abusive sister. I had to go work right after high school, and she did not support me when she made up an agreement with my parents. But anyway, um, and she just stopped for fucking me because I was different, because I was trans, because I was gay. Then was at the time because she thought that she was not agreeing with me despite everyone backing me up in a pre-Brexit, nearly Brexit world. But yeah, I've talked about it in the past in more detail. Um, so, and in general, university and the affordability of it is a very complicated subject for me. And also because, like, when you have a foreign passport, it's obviously like a non-EU for you colleges, you universities, you have to pay a more higher fee. And that was difficult actually to do. So so in this case, it shows that, for instance, people who come like from Ukraine, from out of the EU, still have trouble getting into good institutions just because of their passport. And to be honest, like, I still don't understand the sort of discrimination people face at borders, the reasons we need visas. Um, I really don't understand a lot of it because I just feel like every human being needs to be respected, and it doesn't matter that you were born in a certain country or to certain parents. And then people say, oh, it doesn't matter where you were born, so you need to work hard, you need to grind harder. And in general, this normalization of the grind when everything is so unequal is something that should be just we should be more revolted against. And like, I was browsing Reddit today, and people were complaining about the inflation. A lot of people were like, yeah, but the inflation is a thing that happens. People should like understand that it's inevitable, and a lot of people are like just like work harder, like you lazy asses, and sometimes you're stuck in a loop where you reached your potential at a certain job, or you cannot get a better job, or you cannot find a job, and certain things which again should be considered proper basic rights aren't seen as worthy for everyone. Like I don't understand so much, and I don't understand like why don't people donate? Why don't people do charity work? Why don't people adopt? And to be honest, there is no sense sort of a general global community. It's and with passing years, we just have much more class divisions. We have basically no middle class these, or whatever the middle class is, completely small percentages, and then we have an obnoxious sort of high class, which does not give a fuck about everyone. And factually, the high class gets to be high class because they exploit other people, and the working class just gets fucked over, really. And like the healthcare in the US also like completely confuses me. And then we see sort of like people who look up to these leeches like Musk, Jeff Bezos, any billionaire really, and etc. And they sort of apply that to themselves, regardless of whether they are you or not. And people sort of see youth which riots, or like people with different ideology as someone very ungrateful, and then they think, what's free healthcare? Oh, that's like a synonym to communism, and people don't understand socialism, understand communism, and or like basic rights, or what should basic rights be, and it just ends up with people getting red scare for no good reason. And like, well, I do understand that you kind of root for your own country, um, and specifically in terms of war or like frictions, political, um, you still need to call out things. Like, you shouldn't just be dumbly nodding at Biden not wanting to forgive student loans, or not support something that he'd said he'd support, and he said that Roe versus Wade would never be overturned, and here we are. So and I understand that like in some countries it's very cultural with abortion, but at the same time you should give people the decision. It's a person's body, it's a person's choice. You don't know the circumstances, don't know health issues. And in general, if a person does not want a baby, or the fetus, which has not even developed to be a baby, it's their right to choose. And people don't think about that. So everyone kind of gets solidified in this idea of you deserve nothing until you get on the grind and you work hard and you have certain things. Like, of course, some people get built from the grounds and then they pass through, but many people don't. And again, maybe I'm saying this because I was like abused by my sister and I have no remorse, or like no sort of consideration for the rich. And I do understand that maybe it's because I went through poverty multiple times. Um, and all while hearing these sort of talks of like my sister being self-made when my parents bunked their last money into her and her husband. So I don't, and that's how they got their start. And at the same time, like these people feel like the small money they had small money was small enough, and you don't understand how far away from reality they are. Like when you hear Trump saying, "My dad gave me just a small loan of $1 million," it's completely batshit. Like normal, or like rather average income people don't have that, and people really neglect that class, and the class you're into is such a predominant factor in society, which will establish your role. So yeah, I have my personal hang-ups against the rich, but at the same time, like I try to look out of the box. I try to think, and I just don't understand why would you turn down someone if they're in an emergency situation. Like, why do they have to like order an Uber or a Lyft in the US to get to the emergency room if they're pregnant and about to give birth? I just don't understand certain things. And I understand that this is the reality of people. And obviously, I'm privileged to be in the EU. I'm privileged to live in a country that is fine with me being gay and trans. And I have privilege to pass enough. And I can do an education right now. But it's still weird to sort of say, yeah, but in the US people don't have this. And to me, it even feels like an extreme example. But the point is, there are still people in this world who live in like the American bubble thinking this is fine, and it's really not. And there's just so many factors, and the factor is that we're all getting exploited, and some in less ways than others, but at the end of the day, we're all getting exploited. And like even in terms of transition, I feel like there's also this sort of hierarchy, or who can get this faster, and etc. Like I was having a discussion, and in general, I see that obviously it's a very heated discussion between trans people, that younger trans people now can transition faster, they can get on C faster, can get into surgery, follow, etc., etc., etc. And obviously, once I was in a country that is accepting and allowed me to, well, I have the rights, thankfully, to start transition and etc. Mine was rather speedy, actually. Like I think it was speed. For my own pace, it was speed. And for other people, like I see people who get top surgery first and then start HRT, or get an HRT and instantly get top surgery. I understand that obviously, if you have the means, you can scoot through all these steps really fast. But at the same time, a lot of people don't have that. And then when people see that people who have money scoot through all of this and they're stuck elsewhere, it creates friction. So we live in a very factual, we live in a very unjust world where money can get you certain things, more money can get you more things, and such. And I feel like people with more money look above to people with more money, and they're like, okay, but this guy got earlier. And I feel like, specifically in American cases, like we see people, because they're so used to this idea that capitalism is the default and money can get you things, they sort of start looping in this idea that they need to do everything fast and not wait, and they get angry when they sort of wait in queue and the queue isn't fast enough. And in general, I've noticed like a lot of trans people lose patience because like they start HRT like 2 months ago and they're already like angry that they can't afford a follow or whatever. And at the same time, like you look at NHS waiting times, which are like from upwards of 6 years. And these people sort of don't have this sort of sense of community or understanding that they are in a privileged position and should be thankful. And at the same time, you need to sort of understand that not everyone has that, and that is an issue. Things should be immediate necessities should be accessible to everyone. And to top it off, for the ending, I was browsing Twitter and there was this Che Guevara quote, which was that youths need not to think as individuals, but think of themselves as a whole part of society and such. And while I do feel like we need to be individualistic, we do need to have some consciousness of being in a community. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that. And that's the thing. There is criticisms to communism, like not everything is great. There's a lot of theory which is great, there's a lot of theory which doesn't make sense, there's a lot of theory which should be looked through a more modern lens and stuff like that. But people just sort of scrub it off as Red Scare, and that's it. And people are scared of change, but they accept the bad change because it makes sense to rich people, because they get richer. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it. However you want to debate about the Red Scare. I'll obviously link the video to Tiffany's video below. Yeah, like, subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Also, I have a coffee, so if you want to feel my caffeine addiction, please feel free. Thank you very much.